Today I want to talk all about polyunsaturated fats, or PUFAs, and how it directly can relate to your fertility or ability to, get pregnant. So first of all, let's talk about what PUFAs are. PUFAs are polyunsaturated fats. Poly, the word means more than one, and it gets this name because of its molecular structure. It contains poly, aka more than one, unsaturated carbon bond. So if we were thinking about the long molecular structure, within it there's these little double carbon bonds. And polyunsaturated fats have many. Monounsaturated fats like coconut oil, olive oil, avocado, those have one. Mono means one. And then saturated fats like butter, lard, ghee have none. This is why saturated fats at room temperature will be solid, and this is why vegetable oil at room temperature will be a liquid. And it's helpful to, keep it liquid in the things that it's in. So let's say, for example, fish, fatty fish, lots of PUFAs, like salmon. They live in very, very, very cold temperatures. So they need to be able to be wiggly in those frigid, temperatures so that they don't become rigid. And so it's very helpful for them. But in the human body, these fats just aren't really helpful for us. But these, polyunsaturated fats are not very great for the human body because the human body isn't cold. The human body is warm, and it has oxygen, and it gets exposed to light. And those are the three things that will cause those fragile little double bonds in a polyunsaturated molecular structure to break. So they'll start wiggling, and then eventually they'll break. And when they break, they release free radicals. Now, free radicals are gonna go into your body, up to your cells, and they're gonna try to steal an electron. When it does this, it damages and mutates your cells, which we know can, cause a lot of issues in the body, but like one of them being cancer from these cells. But this is why having tons of PUFAs is not really great for our health. And we find PUFAs in things like vegetable oil, canola oil, any seed oil, so like sesame seed, sunflower seed. We'll find it in margarine. We'll find it in basically anything from a restaurant or that's fried, that's cooked in those oils. Most restaurants use very poor quality oils. You'll find it in fatty fish, like I said, in your fish oil supplements. You will find it in nuts and seeds. And basically anything processed. So like baked goods, crackers, all of that stuff commonly have these oils in them because they are cheap to use and have been contributed as healthy. So now I want to talk about specific things that these, types of fats can do in the body. And the first one is going to be that it is very thyroid and metabolism suppressive. And they basically go into your body and they block the rate the rate at which oxygen and glucose are uptaken by our cells. So that's how our cells make energy, and it slows that process down. Bears and other animals that hibernate eat tons of nuts and seeds before they hibernate because they know it slows down their metabolism so that they're not going to use up too much energy while they are hibernating. Then when they wake up, they eat lots of things like honey and fruit to speed up their metabolism. So nuts and seeds, just as an example, but other PUFAs are very slowing on our thyroid and metabolism. And we've been talking about having an abundance of energy and a thriving metabolism and thyroid for fertility. So this is just going to be impacting our fertility and, driving down the very energy that we need. The next is that it is often responsible for driving insulin resistance. This happens in a few ways, one of them being PUFAs damage the beta cells, which are the cells in our pancreas that make our insulin. So when that's, interrupted, then we're not going to have insulin the way we need. A couple other ways that they can drive up insulin resistance or cause blood sugar issues is it interrupts the conversion of glucose into glycogen, which is what our liver uses to run all of its 500 functions that it needs to run. It will also block glucose from getting into our cells for use. So now we're gonna have, elevated blood sugars in our blood. And then it can also increase our insulin levels overall, which of course, when we have high blood sugars and things like that, it's gonna elicit a stress response and start releasing cortisol, which we don't want. The next is PUFAs have the ability to suppress our immune system. So we see this with like seed cycling too. It's like touted to like reduce inflammation, but really all it does is that it doesn't reduce your inflammation. It just suppresses your immune cells that are triggering the inflammation to happen. So inflammation is something that naturally happens when your body sees something as a threat. So basically what PUFAs do is it just suppresses these cells from even triggering inflammation from happening. Also, it can kill off white blood cells, and it can also damage thymus cells, which is a main aspect of our immune system. And very crucial for our overall health, but also for fertility. The last is that it acts like estrogen in and within our body. So like I said, it was very estrogenic in nature, which means it's going to be driving down thyroid function, which is what estrogen does, driving down progesterone, which is what estrogen does, and increasing cortisol, which is just like a recipe for disaster if you want balanced hormones and a fertile body. And the last thing too is that it depletes vitamin E. So some PUFA foods like nuts and seeds do have vitamin E within it. And this is by design because it knows that vitamin E is a very powerful antioxidant that will help to minimize the damage of those PUFAs. But a lot of PUFAs that we're taking on, like in processed foods, vegetable oils, all of that, don't have that vitamin E. So we're being inundated with these polyunsaturated fats, and we just can't, possibly have enough vitamin E on board to manage the damage of all of those PUFAs. So it's gonna, innately just end up depleting that vitamin E, and vitamin E is like one of the most important fertility vitamins, especially for our corpus luteum and our ovaries to help develop those follicles. So overall, PUFAs are just gonna be really unsupportive of our thyroid, metabolism, hormones, immune system, and we wanna mitigate this damage by avoiding them and putting some helpful practices into place. So by, minimizing your exposure to PUFAs by avoiding cooking with vegetable oil, use saturated fats like butter, ghee, tallow, lard, or even coconut oil, which is a monounsaturated fat, can help reduce our exposure to those. Of course, avoiding like tons of processed foods, fast food. Unfortunately, whenever we're eating out, restaurants use these types of oils, so avoiding eating out a ton. Not overdosing on nuts and seeds. I think we're just inundated with nuts and seeds. And in reality, in history, like we've eaten them very sparingly, not handfuls at a time, not in nut milks, not seed cycling where we're taking spoonfuls of these a day. Keep your, nuts and seeds intake moderate. And then, ditching fish oil supplements, which are most likely already rancid and oxidized when you buy it before you even put it in your body, are all great ways that you can really minimize your PUFA exposure. And then adding in a vitamin E supplement can be really helpful also. This will be a really powerful antioxidant, like I was saying, that can help to mitigate some of that damage from the PUFAs, because we can't avoid PUFAs. We can't have zero. It's impossible because they're in, lots of things, even in small amounts. So the best thing we can do is just make healthy choices and understand our exposure and try to limit it.